Assalamu alaikum, peace be with you and welcome to Islam and Life with me, Tariq Ramadan, broadcasting from London. In today's show we ask the question, do Muslims have a genuine choice to make in the upcoming 2015 general elections amid growing right-wing rhetoric by the mainstream parties?
According to research company Ipsos Mori, 53% of Muslims did not vote in the previous UK general election. Muslim organisations such as the Muslim Council of Britain have highlighted how a lot of Muslims feel alienated from the political process. A recent anti-Muslim Facebook comment by a Conservative Party councillor comparing Muslim women wearing burqas to black bin bags has raised questions. Many have accused political parties of failing to engage with their Muslim constituents on these pressing issues. Commentators in the US have also spoken of a similar issue, where some administration policies have alienated the American Muslim community. This week on Islam and Life, we ask, do Muslims have a genuine choice to make amid growing right-wing rhetoric by the mainstream parties?
This is an important question. We are talking about Western Muslims, about British Muslims, American Muslims, citizens in their respective countries. And if we look at figures and facts, very often the perception and the reality is that they are not very much involved in politics, or not enough at least. And the figures are showing that many Muslims, even though they are talking about their own citizenship, are not voting and not enough. What is the weight of the Muslim presence in the Western countries, in the UK, in the States and elsewhere? And in which way we can get this awareness that political involvement is, in fact, a civic responsibility. It's even something that is important from a Muslim perspective. When you are within a community, you are within a society, and you have to contribute. How do they, can they be more involved in the process? What is really happening? What is the real influence of Muslim citizens in these countries? These are critical questions. And to answer all these questions, I'm joined by my guest, Dr. Muhammad Abdul Bari, former Secretary General of the Muslim Council of Britain. Thank you so much for being with us. You have been very much involved in all this discussion at your level within the UK, because you have been, you know, the president of the Muslim Council of Britain. What is the situation? If we have to come to this, the Muslim presence and their involvement in politics, for example, first question is, are they involved enough? Or if not, why they are not involved enough in the political arena?
Well, the situation is very mixed. People are involved. Some probably are more involved than the others in different countries. In Britain, I think we are not doing that bad. It's a mixed picture, as I said. Sections of the Muslim community, especially the younger generation, they have got lots of issues, domestic issues, foreign policy issues. But overall, the participation of Muslims in the national elections, even council elections, isn't that bad compared to some other communities. Well, there is political training and education needed. People come from different directions, different countries with different backgrounds. In some countries, people have had no experience of any election process. So Muslims from all around the world are in here, but those who are citizens, those who live here for many years, they have gone through this experience, and organizations like Muslim Council of Britain and MPAC and many other organizations engage. And we all have been encouraging Muslims to be fully part and parcel of the society. One of the ways of being part and parcel of the society is taking part in the public life. And what else other than politics, whether party politics or any other politics, being in the public life.
But this is a very important point. What you are saying is that in the UK is not so bad, that the young generation, young Muslims are involved. Now, if you listen to some of the political parties, the mainstream political parties and others, here in the UK, or for example in France, or in Germany, or in the States, what you got from them is, we are not so scared of the Muslim constituencies or the Muslim citizens, because they are not so much involved, not enough involved, and they don't have a great influence in the political realities and positioning within the country. Is that right? Is this a right assessment?
Well, we don't want them to be scared of us. We want them to take...
No, scared by being counting on the Muslim votes.
That's what I said.
Yes.
I think they should really count. And the fact is the Muslim vote really counts in different places. And it all depends on how Muslims play the game, because politics is more or less very important public participation. And for that public participation, people have to understand politics. It's an educational process, as I mentioned. So generally, Muslims have a mixed picture when it comes to political literacy. Those who do understand politics, the importance of politics, importance of electing leaders in the local level or the national level, they take politics very seriously, whether through lobbying, whether through policy making, whether through direct participation, whether through voter registration. Over the elections, what we have done in the Muslim Council of Britain and other mainstream organizations, we encourage people to register for votes first, because that is important. If you don't register yourself as a voter, then you are not there. You don't take part. And once they register, once this campaign goes on, I work with the Electoral Commission and with many other bodies so that maximum people from the Muslim community and other communities do register their names as voters. Then this second bit is when election comes, they participate in the electoral process. So as mainstream organizations, we do not ask or tell Muslims or any other people whether to vote Labour or Conservative or any other party. Because
you don't say that. You are not. Yes.
We are non-partisan.
Yes.
Because it is people's choice, and I think it is also important that Muslims don't put all their eggs in one basket. It's politically naive, and also socially, people normally don't subscribe to this.
So you push the people to rely on their own freedom of understanding of who are the best people to support, in their view.
It's an education process, and we ask them to choose the best candidate in their seats, and also keeping in view of the national context. And party is important. Of course, candidates are important. And integrity of the candidates, commitment of the candidates, and their competence, all of them are important. And whether that is a Muslim parliamentary candidate or non-Muslim, we are neutral on that. And what we say that the candidate that will deliver for the public service, that will deliver for certain hopes and aspirations of Muslims and other communities, minority and other communities, and work for the justice for the people. Social justice and all sorts of issues are important for us.
So as an organization, you want to remain neutral. Your positioning is to push the people, to encourage the people to go and to vote.
Yeah.
My question on this is, when you are asking them on principle, just the principle as a citizen is to vote and to be involved in the political discussions, social involvement, commitment. The perception, once again, here, it's quite important. It's as if when we are talking about being involved in politics, we are concerned, or the Muslim citizens are concerned only with things that are connected to Islam or to foreign policy. What is your take on this? Because, once again, that's very important. We are talking about Britain, and, for example, what I heard from politicians in the States is exactly this, is that Muslims, they are not going to vote about domestic issues, they are going to vote about what is happening in the Middle East only. How do we balance this?
Well, there could be, this could be true for certain sections of Muslims, and I don't deny that. But our policy is, Muslims as citizens of the country, we have to work for the common good. What is good for the society is good for Muslims. When they say for the society is the overall society, say law and order and moral compass and all sorts of issues that affect our society and that affect our community as well. Yes, Muslims may have certain issues regarding some of the aspects of foreign policy or some of the domestic policy as well. And as citizens, they will have to argue this because there are pressure groups in all communities from all sections. And
there is nothing wrong with that.
Nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong with that if there is civility in this sort of demand, and people do things through the process of law and through the electoral process. And our interest is to get Muslims educated in politics, at the same time register as voters and participate in the voting process, so that the community becomes aware of what's happening around us, whether domestic issues or international issues, to us more or less same. And of course, in this country, because of Iraq war and other issues, there are Muslims, obviously, who have been directly affected. And to us, it's an ethical foreign principle issue. And we have been arguing with the government on these sort of issues. Even in the domestic politics from the Labour government to the Conservative government, we have been against the prevent agenda, the way it is being used for Muslims. During the Labour period, it was community cohesion and security was conflated. And towards the end of the Labour government, Gordon Brown's time, that was found to be counterproductive by their own committee. But unfortunately, the coalition government came with the so-called conveyor belt theory in the prevent agenda. These are the serious issues, not only that affecting Muslims, these are issues that affect British citizens as overall. And
yes. I just want to carry on with one question. Dealing with the Muslims at the grassroots level, what we have is some Muslim citizens, they are not involved in politics. And in fact, there is a kind of disenfranchisement from, the being involved, and some are disappointed, some are not trusting politicians, and some are saying, you know what, how I, as a Muslim, I can go and vote for people. At the end, they are not real Muslims. They are not really involved with my principle and my ethics. I was myself saying for years, there are three conditions. First is to be competent. Second is to be upright and honest. And third is accountability, that you have to come back. These are the three things. Muslims and non-Muslims find the right people, and this was in our tradition. Some will go to you, and they came to you as the Muslim British Council. And the same in the States. Now we have trends saying, how can we go and vote for people at the end they are not sharing our values and not having the same vision of life as ours, and as Muslims I cannot vote for them?
Well, voter apathy is not only related with Muslims, it's across the country. And that's a big debate and discussion in the Western democracy. And especially young people, they are disconnected with many of the voting process. But what's the benefit in keeping away from the electoral process? The democracy is run through election, and election happens every certain years. And if you take part in it, then you have the chance or more probability of affecting the change. If you don't take part in it, then you are not there in the society. You are not taking part in the society. So it's a weighing out.
But is it out of principle that you have to be involved, or out of necessity?
It's both.
It's both.
Principle is important,
yeah,
but necessity is also important, because if we don't come up and make our politicians accountable to us as citizens, they will probably wouldn't do that. If they don't do that, then their accountability process will go down, and the country will suffer at the end of the day. And when the country suffers, we will suffer as well. It's a circle. So it's a participate in the election process, voting process, in the political process of the country. Civic responsibility is a virtuous circle, in my opinion. It's not otherwise we fall into a vicious circle. We start giving or blaming each other. So
once again, what you are suggesting and saying here is just to be involved in all the topics, everything which has to do with public life, political life, social life, everything have to be involved. Now, what would be your answer to people? And by the way, it's not only Muslims who are saying this. Lots of people are saying, I don't want to be involved in politics. At the end of the day, it's not a real choice. They are all the same. They are corrupt, or at least they want power, and they are using us. And we have Muslims coming and say, okay, tell me what is the difference between the previous American administration and the current administration? We thought that Barack Obama was going to be much better than before, and it's even worse with all the security policies and monitoring people, the way the people are. We come here, we had before the Labour Party, now we have the Tories. At the end, what is the difference? So you are asking me, you, a leader of the Muslim community, to be involved in politics, and at the end they are all the same. Do I really have a choice?
What's the alternative choice? So there's no answer to that as well. At the end of the day, 1 + 1 makes 2. and citizens, individuals come and they make a nation, and there is no perfect fail-safe system of running any society or country. There is no perfect system, and we have seen autocracy in the Muslim Muslim countries and developing countries, and long ago these Western countries were also run by autocracy, and they were visited by war after war after war. So it's a democratic freedom or people's choice. People have come to a certain stage in these developed countries through electoral process, but this depends on human element, and human element means the leaders, the workers, the supporters, the ordinary citizens, and all of us have a stake in this. Say, if the previous American administration was bad, at least the current administration is not that bad. So I have been a teacher, and I know people's behavior can be really bad and can be good. That on the relative term, so if I see that someone's behavior is slightly better than the previous, then I will go for this slightly better behavior. So at least during current American president's time, there hasn't been any war like Iraq war or Afghan war, and we cannot deny that. And the other thing we have to keep in mind that politics in itself is not the end. Politicians cannot simply run the country without people participation. There are policymakers, there are think tankers, there are academics. We have to keep an eye on them as well. And Muslims and conscious citizens of any country should go for this overall political process, regeneration process in all these sectors that I mentioned, and there are other sectors which are powerful. And if good people go into all these sectors, and then politicians are chosen, they have to find people from all these sectors. At the moment, a president or prime minister probably don't have any other choice but to run a country. They will have to find some people. And if there are not enough good people, or if there are not enough competent people in the other sectors, then there is an issue. So when I say politics, it is involved with other public institutions like think tanks, academics, policy-making institutions, and other areas.
Yes, and listening to you, what you are saying mainly is that we have to be pragmatic and to be realistic. So this is the situation, the state of affairs, and people should deal with it and not, it's not going
run away from this.
Exactly. So having said that now, while you are listening to the voices of some within the young generations and some Muslims being here saying, at the end of the day, nothing is going to change, what could be the strategy? First, to make them aware that there is no choice, that in fact not to choose is to choose in a way in political terms, that not having a voice is also putting yourself in a situation where you are not going to contribute, you are not going to influence, you are not going to have an impact. So how can we nurture this sense that we need to be much more involved in politics, and then also to open up the choices in what are the options, what can we do within the society? How can we deal with the Muslim communities and the citizens?
It has to be done in a multi-level, in my opinion. One is the creating an overall awareness of the community, Muslims and non-Muslims, faiths and non-faith people as well, that they really take running of the country locally, nationally, regionally, very seriously. That is important, because we all are citizens of the country. Everyone has a responsibility in this. So that awareness and consciousness is fundamentally important. That's in the grassroots level. And those who have the certain abilities to do politics or contribute in the political process, we have to more or less encourage them to go into the political process. And there are many ways of political process. Media is one of the ways, policy making another ways, lobbying is a huge interest in this society, and in all aspects where politics matter. And in fact, politics with a small p is there with every human being. In family, we have our internal politics. In society, community, we have our internal politics. This political understanding is fundamentally important. For Muslims, I would add one element is, over centuries, Muslims have failed in good politics, positive politics. And I sometimes call that politics is the Achilles heel of the Muslims. And where there is a political issue, Muslims try to sort this out through swords or through fightings and different ways.
Yes, and sometimes in a very emotional way.
In a very emotional way.
Not a
Politics
critical
has to be wise, has to be pragmatic. Politics is about negotiation. Politics is about compromise. And we need all this compromise, negotiation in our family, in our community, in our organizations. And in our nation, we need this.
But very quickly, just one thing, we don't have much time. I want you to, the sense sometimes is that some Muslim citizens, in order to be accepted, are sometimes compromising some issues. Don't we need courage to be also able to be critically loyal to the country by also addressing some of the issues that we want people to hear?
Well, politics are leaders. So leaders have to have certain basic qualities. These are prophetic qualities as well as the universal qualities. One is competence. One is the trustworthiness, honesty or integrity, and also sense of accountability. All these are qualities of leaders. So whoever goes for politics, from the Muslim community or a non-Muslim community, one has to be more or less try to be leader in his or her level. And in that way, politics will be more or less reformed, and people will appreciate and understand what they are trying to do, and people will be able to relate to those individual politicians. When politicians and ordinary citizens link together, that can really bring a benefit to the society, and society will be run through the moral compass.
Thank you so much. I think that listening to you, it's quite interesting because you have been involved at the grassroots level, nationally, and also connected to the world. Some very important thing is that, willing it or not, we have no choice. We have to be involved in politics. Now we have to be equipped, and what you are saying is educating the people. Awareness, it's important. Consciousness is also important. And then dealing with some of the qualities that are needed in the field. We were talking about honesty, accountability, and competence, but also courage. And leadership, which is also something which is important. And even though sometimes we seem not to have the choice between the political parties, still it's important to be involved in this situation and to have the young generations to be much more involved and understanding that this is through this involvement that they will have an impact within the society. Well, that's all we have time for. Please let us know your thoughts and views on any of the shows you have seen, and here is the way to contact us.
We at Islam and Life would like to hear your views about the subjects that we discuss. We would also love to hear your suggestions for our program, so get in touch with us. You can share your thoughts with other Islam and Life fans, engage in debate, and find out how to watch our previous shows. Follow us on Twitter at Islam and Life TV, or join us on Facebook by liking our page, Islam and Life on Press TV.
Finally, I would like to thank my guest, Dr. Muhammad Abdul Bari. Thank you so much for being with us and your insight. And I hope to see you next week, inshallah.